Welcome back to the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. I'm Inquisitor Temperance Price, keeper of the Inquisition's Black Library, and this is the third volume in a report on the Valentyne Heresy, an actual play podcast set in the Genesis adaptation of Warhammer 40,000's Dark Heresy RPG. This report features Game Master Tom McGee and players Ryan LaPlante as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Tyler Hewitt as Attikus Vis, Laura Hamstra as Eli Sharp, and Della Borovic as Morgan Rawls. My report shows that Attikus Vis won the space race. Attikus came in first by a mile. Morgan flashed her tattoo at Voidstain, who identified her as a heretic. Eli released the Lizzo Lizardman servo-skull to get a letter to Bobberstein, and Valentyne confirmed the Duke's pleasure at Atticus's win. But what will happen now that Guinevere's ship crashed and exploded? Find out next in this episode of the Valentyne Heresy.
From the Lizardman letter. Well, shit. Guinevere's ship bursts into flame, impacting the ground with a tremendous, just like at full speed. So just crashes into the ground. The ground shakes beneath all of you. It unfortunately spills some of your champagne, Attikus, which I know is a bummer. But there's just a cacophony of gasps and shock. Attendants begin rushing in as the rest of the ships begin to kind of like pull in. What are all of you doing as this ship explodes?
How far away was this? And did it go like straight down, or was there like?
Yeah, so if you'll remember, a lot of these ships have been built essentially to be non-pilot proof.
Yeah.
Since a lot of the aristocracy isn't great at piloting.
Yeah.
So for Attikus, and this is again something that you'd probably all learn later, although Eli, you would have probably picked this up at the shipyard, talking to Fairley. But essentially it's like if everyone else pushed the button to engage their auto lander, you can presume that she pressed it and they didn't. So as a result, the ship didn't decelerate at all. It just shot straight into the ground and exploded at full speed. So it's almost the equivalent of someone not pulling a parachute. So hit with tremendous force and a distance behind Attikus. The other thing being that if we think about kind of what a standard landing trajectory would be if it was plotted, with no plotting, it was kind of like she crashed a little bit away from where everyone else is meant to land, where all the fanfare is and everything else, because the autolander didn't engage. It's what we will determine soon, but don't know yet.
Are there any wounded people or anything in the area where the crash was, or was it far enough away that
it's
there's
far
like
enough
explosion
away?
away
So
from
you
crowd?
can think of it as like there's like the landing pad kind of like victory zone that Attikus is currently shirtless and spraying champagne on. Yeah, this would be beyond that in kind of likely an untended field kind of situation. So again, if we're thinking in terms of like airplane runways, it's like the spot beyond the runway where it's just kind of like grass and water or whatever. So didn't land, like didn't, crash into the site, didn't blow up and murder a bunch of people, just like crashed beyond almost a little bit in the distance. So it's a bit of a hike for the people who are running.
Cool. Valentyne would release Eugene to float and just record all the audio around him because he's aware that in a scene this complicated and this chaotic, he's not going to be able to pick up what everyone's saying, but Eugene might pick up something juicy in a crisis otherwise, and then he would just book it for Attikus because he's still in full cover mode. So if he was the like military veteran major domo, bam, he's just got to find out what Francois Van Houten wants to do in this time of crisis.
Yeah. Attikus would be looking at the Duke if he can spot him from here. We had a quick little connection, right?
Yeah, so the Duke
victory
and,
thing,
the king and everyone else are on a floating platform.
Yeah,
which I will say like shook with the impact.
Sure.
So there's a lot of kind of like everyone falling out of their chairs. It's a lot of like Star Trek bridge damage action of people just stumbling left and right.
Someone dying is not really going to phase Attikus too much, so he's looking at this as an opportunity to get an idea of like how the Duke feels about watching a horrific crash happen. He wants to see if he can understand is there concern, is there fear, does it delight him?
Yeah, fair enough. So let's get a roll.
Okay.
So I'm just pulling up my character sheet here. We'll go perception for this. Difficulty 2, because you were already making eyes at him. I'm going to give you a setback for just how awkward as we've discussed, like the view line to this platform is bad. So a setback for that. But a boost for not caring about everything else. Like everyone around you is in utter chaos, but it's kind of like a movie where there's like John Wick and whoever John Wick is fighting, and everyone else is like running around and screaming. The two of them just staring dead-eyed at each other.
Right.
So that kind of situation.
Or like the people at the dance clubs where he murders all those henchmen. They just don't seem to care and keep dancing.
Dude, it's so expensive to get into those fucking dance clubs. Like
nothing is ruining this night for me. I finally got into
I hired
Chapeau.
a babysitter.
Yeah. I finally got into the wet pillar building. It's time.
Yeah. Just go around. Is it fake?
Yeah.
I've always wanted to go. All right. So go ahead with that.
Cool.
I think that's all I'm going to do. And I'm obviously not going to spend story points on this. On that note, story point wise.
I think I had it as 3 and 2 on our last episode.
Surprise.
I can't tell if that's ever serious or a joke at this point.
Why not both?
Yeah. That's actually, it's funny because it's true.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything to add to that pool, sir. So I'm just going to roll here.
Yeah, man.
That's 1 success and 1 advantage.
1 success, 1 advantage. Okay. So you can see that like the Space Marine Pollard is just pushing forward. Like he's got his bolt pistol out and is doing very much like a Mr. President thing, moving everyone back towards the back of the platform. And just holding his bolt pistol kind of like over the crowd in a vaguely menacing way. The Duke looks horrified. Got it. This is in a vaguely stoic way, but also like this is a huge upset to what's going on. The king is astonished and taken aback, but also like this is thrilling. Like this, what a twist. But Wixthorpe does legitimately seem taken aback by what's going on. A lot of the court is also in a panic for a planet that hasn't really seen major social upheaval in, I think, like a generation and a bit. This is quite something. And the crowd on the ground is going completely insane because something of this magnitude hasn't happened.
All right, then. Knowing that it's had such a visceral reaction for the Duke, and I think clocking Valentyne running towards him, Attikus will just shout out, is it Robute or Rabute? Rabute, thank you. He'll just shout out, Rabute with me, and just run towards the crash. Try to be a bit of a hero here, but also let's get in there first and see if there's some foul play. That'll really help us figure some shit out.
Yep, Rabute is right on his fucking heels because that's Valentyne very pleased with this call. Also, he's got his fake blindfold to make himself look more interesting, but what do his robot eyes see?
Yeah, if you're close enough for a discreet conversation of running, Attikus is like, we should take a look, sir.
Yeah, and Valentyne would have his auspex with him so that he could whip that out and scan the wreckage and see what he could find once they get close enough.
Cool. Morgan, Eli, what are you up to?
So Morgan would, after landing and disembarking the ship, Voidstain saw her and then freaked out and called her heretic and then was hot on her heels even in the ship. So she just feels like, I have to get out of here. So she would try to disappear into the crowd and send Toby after Eli so that if someone's trying to follow her via the bird, they are separate. But then Eli can deal with the ship, deal with whatever else she wants to just blend into the crowd, disappear, and try to leave.
Can you roll me a perception, please, at difficulty, based on what you're saying, 4?
Okay.
And I am going to spend a story point to up that.
Okay.
So that'll bring us to 4 and 1 in your favor.
Okay. And that's perception?
Yeah, perception. I'll give you a boost for Toby, as always. The setbacks are built into the, you know what? I'm sorry, Del. Can you drop that difficulty by 1 purple and add a setback?
Yes.
Instead. I think that's more fair. Just for the fact that, like, and basically this role is about whether or not Morgan notices something as she's getting out. It's not something you're looking for, and it's not something that would be of concern to you. It's more a matter of like, does this catch your eye? So I want to kind of balance the difficulty against how difficult that would be. I'll give you another setback for the chaos of what's going on. But I will also give you a boost for probably wanting to be aware of your surroundings.
Yes.
Like if you're worried about Voidstain, then like weirdly you would be kind of like looking around.
Right.
You aren't looking for this, but you might see it.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
great.
Then I'm not spending a story point because that's not her number one goal.
Totally fair.
Okay, I'm rolling. 2 failures.
Bleh.
That's
Your
it.
eyes fall out. Just fall out, roll away. Oh no. Yeah, it's like the spooky door. Okay, 2 failures. Yeah, all right, that's fine. So you leap out, you send Toby off, and you take off running. Where are you trying to head to?
First, disappear into the crowd, then just get back home to the ship. Fuck this whole place. I'm out of here. I don't want to be caught by anybody
Right.
that
Okay.
will see this. Yeah.
Fair enough. So you take off running. Eli, what are you doing?
If Eli saw which ship it was, yes, I meant that would have been
Yes.
yeah. So, who cares about the servo-skull? That's immediately just like not important. No one will care, and he's just looking for Morgan.
Okay.
That has to be his primary because just to make sure that her ship actually lands, because immediately he would be trying to get in touch with her. But if her ship lands fairly quickly and didn't even have time to like get in touch with her, then that's fine.
It didn't, I think, based on the way Del, you described Morgan's
She's just
actions.
bailing out. I think you would
It's
just-
more a ditch and run.
Yep.
So
You
Eli,
would end up with Toby, though.
Okay.
yeah. So let's do perception for you then as well.
Okay.
Just
'Cause-
to round this out.
Okay. Because I mean, Eli would also immediately look to like, where's the threat?
Yep. I'd be willing to give you vigilance if you'd rather take that route. I feel like whereas everyone else, it's like, what are you seeing? For you, it's very much like I am scanning for a threat, which I think changes things a little bit.
Cool.
So I'm going to say difficulty 3, 1 setback for general chaos. I'll give you a boost for the fact that Toby is very obvious.
Okay.
And I think that's it on my end.
All right. I'm just looking to see if there's anything that I can use.
Yeah. Story points are 4 and 1 in your favor right now.
No, that's only good for perception. So we'll just use vigilance.
What was the skill?
Perception. I have an integrated auspex.
I'd give that to you for this. Yeah.
Cool.
For the way we're using
just
vigilance
gives
in this
me-
particular context, I think that would make
I think
sense.
that gives me
2 boosts
2 boosts.
to perception for aspects. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Unless you're looking through 50 centimeters of metal.
Yeah.
50 centimeters. Goddamn.
You were
Yeah.
behind the bleachers, but they might not be that thick.
Why? Why did I do this from behind the 2001 obelisk?
Okay. Yeah. I will roll.
Yep.
Okay.
Tyler's face.
It's a
So
clippable
I got.
moment there, Tyler.
Hang on. I got 3 failures, 2 threats, but it also a triumph.
Okay.
Feels good.
Dude, that
We're playing a
rough.
game.
So
Yeah.
many blank dice.
Yeah, you got robbed there.
Well, you found Toby.
Fuck.
Honestly, like Eli's so out of his element, like it makes sense.
Yep.
Kind of.
No,
I don't
it
know.
does. It does.
It will once Tom's done.
Like, where's my gun?
Grabs
Yeah.
another servo-skull. It's got a gun in its mouth. Just starts aiming it at people.
Okay.
Oh,
I just want the Eldar.
Hit the ground, running.
Okay. Sorry, I need a second to process that. That's a lot of.
Understandable. God damn.
Yeah.
Thanks, Genesis.
You're out of your element, Donnie.
Okay. So Eli, you're scanning the crowd. I think it's in part that you literally just like let the servo skull go. So you're kind of like looking away at that as it flew away, muttering to yourself about whether or not you did the right thing.
Oh god.
I also like you're like, who cares about that? I'm like, Laura cares about that deeply. Eli, you can take it later. Laura's like, I gotta know. Anyway, explosion happens. You turn to look. see a bunch of ships coming in. Toby kind of swoops over, but with your failure, you can't spot Morgan through the crowd. The fact that you do see Toby, though, obviously indicates that Morgan has landed. So that's fine. Morgan, as you leap out and begin your run, obviously there's flames in the distance. We've got Valentyne and Attikus rushing towards the flames. You hear just a tremendous sort of mechanical intake sound above you that you recognize very much as thrusters misfiring. And as you turn, as you run, another of the ships is smoking out of the canopy and is wobbly, coming in for a crash landing into the crowd. Unfortunately, having not spotted this to this point, you're going to have to dodge out of the way of this thing as it careens into the crowd.
Okay.
So I'm going to need, please, probably a coordination to just get the fuck down and out. Unless you have something else you want to make a case for here.
Man, even when Attikus doesn't know it, he's saving Valentyne's life.
Honestly.
I would take athletics as well if you want, but
I will take coordination. The only thing I could make a case for is I do have a skill called sidestep, and it's when I'm getting hit by ranged, I can take one strain to make the difficulty of the person shooting me worse, but I don't know if you want to use that towards this or anything.
Yeah. I think that makes sense as something that would benefit you here. So let's give you that as a boost.
Okay, so I'll take a strain. Beep.
You know what a strain is? A strain is... Yeah, I think it's just a boost.
That's fine. Take what I can get.
Yeah, because it would normally add a setback to the person shooting at you.
It would increase the difficulty of the person shooting at me.
Okay. All right. So then it should be worth more to you. So let's we'll decrease the difficulty of this check by 1.
Cool.
Which brings it to 4.
Yeah.
Fuck off, Tom.
Yeah.
It is an explosive spaceship full of jet fuel. I can understand the pitch on this.
Yep. So difficulty 4. I'm going to not give you much, I don't think, for this. I'll give you 1 boost for the fact that the crowd around you would be reacting, which would give you a suggestion that something bad is about to happen.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's, I think, about it from me, other than the story point I'm going to spend to just bump that fucker up.
Fuck.
And I will also take a story point then, because this is death staring me in the face. Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else have anything we're missing? Anything
I'm by myself, so
It should not be happening.
All right, you ready?
Oh, I have a question. How long after she enters the crowd in her mad dash is this thing coming down to hit? Because the only sell I would have is, A, she's very sneaky at moving through things, and she's very lightly dressed, which means, not in combat armor or anything, but if she has a couple of seconds, I bet she could fucking move through that crowd. And I don't know if that would be
the crowd isn't the problem. It's literally
it's
from a cinematic perspective, if we're kind of tracking Morgan jumping out and then running to, I don't know, the right of our screen, it's as she's running, there's another ship coming in on that path. So it's less all of us turn, oh no, Independence Day, we're fucked. It's more I'm running across a landing field and theoretically things are landing before me, but one of them is not.
Yeah, no, I can't sell shit on this because you don't see it. So sorry, I tried.
It was good. It was a good attempt. And
I have a pitch. Let's go back in time. Take it again, Tom.
Wow.
Oh, baby.
I don't know if we have that power.
It is amazing how all of a sudden it's going to be Eli who dies this episode.
Laura, hang on. I think I just need to pick up this GM screen and just shift it over to
brings
Laura.
out very strong feelings. Anyways,
Understandable.
just move on.
Okay.
Just go.
Shall
do
I
it.
push a button?
Let's
All
push the button.
2 successes, 1 threat.
Okay. So Del, you want to explain how Morgan gets out of the way of this thing as it comes down?
Yeah. I think it is just hearing those engines behind her, and then there's crowds, there's people moving, and the other people don't move as fast as her, and she does a dive and a roll, and she's between other people's legs and just keeps going low down to the ground.
Great. Behind you, you just hear and feel the impact. Now, this thing doesn't crash straight into the ground. It was coming in at a landing vector, so instead it skips kind of like a couple times through crowd. So there's just like, servants and bystanders just being mulched by this thing. And I think it is one of those things where like you roll as the wing kind of swings. It's very much like a bad plane landing in a movie or like a helicopter going down. It's just like twisted metals flying off. Also, it's fucking super hot. It just came through the atmosphere. And just spinning through crowd as it kind of slows to a stop. And it's one of those things where it's like by an inch, but you manage to get under it.
Nice.
So Eli, with your triumph that we haven't spent yet, if you want, I'm going to say we can spend that to like let Morgan recover real quick and get the fuck out, because this is not a great place to be.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
So just like instant recovery for Morgan. So yeah, Morgan, I assume you just like
trying to get back to base to the ship.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we can spend the triumph to say that, like, narratively, you use the chaos to get away. Lower sea chaos. It's important to make these distinctions in the grim darkness.
The pandemonium.
No, baby chaos.
All right. So Attikus and Valentyne, as you're running just out of the corner of your eyes, you see that kind of happen behind you. Ahead of you is the conflagration of Guinevere's ship. What do you do?
I think just at the sight of another ship dropping out of the sky like that, just, is it an attack, sir?
We must assume that it's something. However, I don't want to go back to the crowd where the greatest threat is. We can experience and scan this first crash, see if we can find evidence, then move back and help the wounded.
Right. And if Lady Balansong is alive, if we're there first, sir, do we...
Yes, we may be able to save her with the Emperor's grace, he says, giving a meaningful nod as well in the same direction.
I was going to say, it's hard to see someone wink through a daredevil blindfold, but like, you do.
Yeah.
Aye, sir.
So Valentine's jest, Auspex out. He wants to get everything about this that he can. Was it shot down? Is there any signs of foul play? Anything they can get that basically he'd like to find whatever he can to turn around. And Valentine's first immediate thought from this is, everybody on this planet's politically entangled, and we got here last week. We could put ourselves forward as the people to make this investigation, but we're going to need to bring something sexy if we want the king to trust us on this. So what the fuck can we get?
Attikus is on Power Fist Jaws of Life duty for this crash. Anything that Valentyne needs moved or pried open, that's what Attikus is trying to do.
Okay. So, Ryan, I think I'm going to say for Valentyne, this is probably a tech use if you're using...
You can either use it to boost regular perception, or you can use tech use to look beyond what a human eye could see if you want to try to find more detailed stuff.
I'm happy to, like, which would you use? Is this straight perception for you? Are you using all your technical skills?
I think he would go perception on this one. Just with the sheer amount of explosive fire, odds of being able to scan and find something meaningful, his first thought is we'll get more out of debris than we will out of a technical scan. Also, he doesn't know shit about ships. He knows a lot about like bullet holes, or if he was finding things like basic forensics.
Sure.
But his tech knowledge is actually pretty minimal.
Attikus doesn't know anything about ships either.
Yeah, neither of us are ship specialists.
No.
We have one, but he's busy taking care of a bird.
Wait a minute. Grimly Moody isn't taking care of a... Oh.
Alrighty. So what's my difficulty here, Tom?
Okay. So using straight perception.
Yep.
I'm going to say... And you're trying to ascertain what happened. Hey, while hopping. So I'm going to say difficulty 4.
Okay.
You can take a boost for your eyes and your Auspex as you normally would.
Okay.
I should also point out that a failure doesn't mean you can't figure out what happened in broad strokes. It's just like, this is how much do you get out of it.
To be fair, I'd probably pitch a setback solely based on the sheer amount of fire. Because if we're talking, it exploded.
Yep. Yeah, no, 100%. So
it'd be cool to have a nice corpse that isn't on fire, but we have what we have.
Yeah. Corpse?
Of a ship.
Yeah, setback. Setback for fire.
This poor dead metal bird.
Honestly, I think that's all I would throw in here.
Can I kick a little extra something in there of Attikus being on hand to physically manipulate the wreckage for seeing things better, clearer view, You know.
Yep. No,
Okay,
I like that.
we're done looking at the fuselage. Okay, I scrap it. Let's move.
Yep.
Move on. Kind of thing.
Yes, I like that. I am, however, also going to throw a setback for all of the various unaccounted for threat that's been kind of floating.
Great. So
Floating around.
one more boost for Attikus, one more setback for everything being shitty.
Yes,
that makes
setback,
sense.
not threat.
Cool. I will spend a story point because I think this is very important to Valentyne.
Hello, 3 and 2, my old friend.
All right, let's see what happens. 1 success and 2 threat.
Okay. So there's not a lot, like I think Attikus, you are able to move some metal aside, but there's not a lot left. I mean, these things are like, as we established, like these are little racing skiffs. They're little small ships with big engines attached to them. So this thing slamming to the ground at full speed, it crumples like a cheap car. Like there just isn't really much to it. Balansong family obviously known for building ships, so the fact that there's anything left speaks to the fact that they are very good at what they do. But the speed and velocity at which it hit was pretty gnarly. She is very dead. There's not like it's not like it's all right. The appropriate gravitas.
She's very dead.
No,
LOL. LMAO even.
it wasn't like an it's funny laughter. It's like this is really grim.
Yeah. It's not a like an Uncle Owen Aunt Beru situation where you're looking in and you're like, there she is.
There's
It's
a skeleton.
Literally, the cockpit is gone. So it is kind of driving again, like thinking of these things in kind of like a fighter craft way. It's like the nose and cockpit are just in the crater, and what's left of the ship is really in chunks. It's not like the frame is barely there anymore. So unfortunately, in Valentyne, I think you would, even though you don't know much about ships, you do know investigation, you know crime scenes, and that sort of thing. And like this is a bad situation for that because there just isn't fucking anything to investigate. It's like it's toasty. Yeah. Is there anything that I haven't given you that you think Valentyne would be looking for from that?
Is there any... I guess with the aspects he might be able to find it. I don't know. This is up to you whether or not it's there. But he would be checking also for any DNA or human biological particulate matter in case there was a way that Valentyne got out of this fucking thing and just launched it down. If there's
there's a bunch of like
she
organic.
Did. All right, cool.
Yeah.
He
You
would
can
scan.
identify that there is like human remains at the bottom of this crater. It's just like
Great. He'd get a sample of that for himself in case there was a DNA database to be able to confirm that it was who they thought it was. And that's
sure.
about
I'll
it.
also say like, because I know like you wouldn't know this yet, but I'm sure you would find this out because this was like a big race as part of the Celestial season. Like there will be video of this on all sorts of servo-skulls and everything else. So like you'll have stuff to review later to see like there's no like cockpit opens, she jumps out, parachutes away, and then it crashes. Like you'll be able to confirm all that.
I mean, considering Valentine's past, he's had people fictionalize tape of him that should get him killed. So he's not a guy who's like, well, the tape says it's cool. He's like, test the fucking DNA.
yeah. Also the guy who's had a fake body of himself brought around.
Exactly.
Like,
Yes.
100%.
Test the DNA. It was just, if only she had a serial number. Just do it himself.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you're able to do that. And I think Attikus, there is like you can't see it, but Eli from where you are, although you're probably mostly concerned about whether or not Morgan died. Although I guess if Toby didn't fall from the sky, you can maybe tell.
Yeah.
But the video screens that are kind of showing the close-ups of stuff are showing like Attikus literally looking like a fucking firefighter. Like he's shirtless in flames, like pulling things out of the way. And it strikes a heroic fucking gesture. Like
Okay.
this really does look like a, like hero doing heroic things. So there is kind of like that vibe. That said, at this point, the crowd is losing their minds because the second ship coming down is causing everyone to like sprint away from the thing. Meanwhile, all the Balansong folks and a bunch of Royal Guard are rushing towards the crash site. Now there are people rushing to the second fighter. So we'll turn over to you in a second to see what you're focused on. But for future reference, Attikus, your kind of goal of trying to look like a hero in this situation has been successful.
Excellent.
So Eli, the ship goes down, Morgan gets out. I think maybe because you spent the triumph, we'll say you do catch sight of her.
Okay, cool.
So you can kind of put that fear to rest. What would you be focused on right now?
Are there any ships left in the sky?
There are several. So a bunch of them got bumped off course and stuff.
Yep.
So there's now a bunch coming in, but you can see basically the flight directors running out and like gesturing them away from the landing
So there's
site.
no like comms that are going back and forth. There's no like no like flight control that's like.
Well, I don't think you're tapped into any of that.
No.
Also, keep in mind, this is one of those interesting cases of like, because basically, I mean, just for reference, I'm thinking of this basically like a rich person regatta.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something also to the idea of like, there is no flight control. There is no central. It is literally like, whatever. We have these incredibly safe
This is fucked up.
super jets. We'll just fly them into space and land them. It'll be cool. It's always been cool to this point.
In that case, we've still got our micro beads.
Yep.
So Eli would use their private channel to just signal everyone's like, team, there's still ships in the sky. We have no idea how many more are coming down. We need to do what we need to do and clear the area.
Thank you, Clarence. That's good to know.
Clarence out.
Great.
That's Valentine's internal paranoia of, we're at a crime scene. They may scan the airwaves and record this shit for later, so assume no encryption is safe at the scene of a murder.
Yep. So Eli, can you roll me a perception, or honestly, I'd also take vigilance. I would also take streetwise if you
Vigilance is the thing.
is your jam. All right.
Yep.
So give me a vigilance at 3, please.
Okay.
I'll give you a boost for the fact that you're actively, again, like you're looking at ships coming down.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives you a bit of an advantage to this. Yeah. No setback.
Okay. 1 success, 1 threat.
Okay. So you also see basically like firefighter crews rushing the ship that almost hit Morgan and start to pry the canopy off. And as they do, just like dark smoke is billowing out of it. And you can see them pull Tridimus Versailles out.
Okay.
His clothes are on fire. And they're patting him down, and he is like hacking up a lung. Any sense of like you can tell he basically like landed this thing by the skin of his teeth, and it's just like watching someone pull a driver out of a flaming car. It's just like he's pretty fucked up.
And no other ships are coming down?
No other ships seem to be damaged.
Eli is immediately suspicious of Versailles, the fact that he came down and survived. He's just like, this could just be a smokescreen. Like he could just be like doing this just to like be able to say that he was involved, and like he could have been completely safe.
Good to know.
So Eli wants to he wants to hang around.
Okay. So while everyone else is running back, you want to kind of hang around and check that out. All right.
Just to like be on Versailles, just to hear like, is he making a show of like how close he came to death, or like does anything seem like a performance?
Gotcha. Okay. Can you then give me I think that will be a perception.
Yep.
I'm gonna say difficulty 3, just because you're having to close distance during this. There's been a lot of floating threat, so I'm gonna add a setback for floating threat.
Oof.
I will give you a boost for how much Eli fucking hates these people. I think it's the kind of thing where like you're so irritated by them that if they're doing anything remotely close to what you think they are, it'll just like be magnified by a factor of 10 for you. And I will give you an additional boost for Toby, in that Toby will also be observing it, and realistically you'd be able to check on what is being observed there. Okay. That's
I'm
what
just
I've
rolling.
got. Yep.
Oh man. 1 advantage, 1 failure.
All right.
God damn.
There are too many people swarming him. You can't get a clear line of sight. other than just seeing the body get pulled out and kind of taken to the ground. But unfortunately, you can't get much better. And similarly, like attendants are over top of him, so it's difficult for Toby to get an eye on it as well.
Fuck.
So over the sort of Vox speakers set up sort of around Vernelius Venom Blight, the party planner hops on and just has my apologies, everyone. There seem to have been some truly tragic events here. We do ask that you please clear the airfield as fast as possible. We're going to make sure that everyone else makes it to ground safely, but for obvious reasons, we ask that you. And then immediately gets knocked aside as Forrest Pollard grabs the thing, while still kind of like scanning the crowd with his bolt pistol, and he just says, "Everybody go home. We're instituting a curfew until otherwise heard. So get the fuck out of here. Lock your doors, and we will be in touch." And he just drops the sort of like silver Vox mic. Like Vernelius Venable kind of like picks up off the ground. He's like, "Well, you heard the Space Marine. Please go to your homes, and further word will be sent around by messengers when everything is safe." And yeah, at this point, it's just like emergency crews are rushing in, and there were emergency crews on site, but it was more for like a noble person fell off their horse and broke their leg. So just like people with stretchers and things rushing to the wounded from the Versailles crash. Attikus and Valentyne, you're obviously the furthest away from everything. Eli, I think at this point you're pretty well swept up in the crowd.
He's a servant. He'll just go.
Yeah, fair enough. Attikus and Valentyne, how are you getting out of here?
I think with the reminder of thank you, Clarence, over the line, Attikus will just say,
Rabute, say to it that Victrix is gathered and brought back home and arranged for transport.
Yep, we had our ride in, Hugh Smiggleton, driver extraordinaire. I know he'd already collected Victrix at the site of the landing because it wasn't me who was there to do that.
Yep.
So just organizing that boxed up and then just get us the fuck out of here.
Yeah, you actually have Royal Guard arrive armed and kind of like, they're not here to hassle you. It's more so like on either side of Attikus as Lord Van Houten.
Lord Van Houten.
Morgan, you slipped away, so they wouldn't have come for you. But there, you can tell it's a mix of like, we don't know what's going. It's the classic like, we need to get the VIPs out of here. We don't know what's going on. So they help you get there, and two of them actually ride with you, kind of on the top of the carriage, like with rifles up. Just because again, there's general chaos, and you can see there are Royal Guard kind of flooding through the scene now. As we established, they're the only ones who are allowed to open carry on Grey Bridge, so there very much is a like sort of a threat of violence. And the platform is obviously like scooting away. Now the problem is that it's not built for speed or thrust, so it's really just like slowly hovering away towards a platform where the king can disembark. But you leave behind you a scene of absolute pandemonium and chaos as Guinevere's makeshift grave burns, and all of you pile into the carriage. So you have a carriage ride back to Van Houten Manor. Obviously, you have Royal Guard on top. Hugh Smiggleton is driving. You've got Victrix in a horse carrier behind you. Eli, I assume you're riding Morgan's horse home because
It was how we got there. So yeah.
Yeah. So you'll be riding home. Morgan, how do you get back to the manor?
Yeah, so Morgan would be on foot for the most part. I'm not sure how far away it is. If there's a way that she can, jump onto the side of a bus or to jump like any of those kinds of things, but don't want to have any interaction with anyone. Don't want to be as slick as possible getting
can you
back.
give me skullduggery, please?
Sure.
Ooh, or I'd also take streetwise, one of the two.
So skullbussery or buswise.
There we go.
I will.
How good
I
is
will
it?
bug
the
skull.
darkness of the future, can you read a transit map?
Yep, I
Inside
will.
the gated community. How well do they supervise their golf carts?
Difficulty.
I'm gonna say difficulty of 2. There's a lot of chaos going on right now,
Okay.
so it's honestly, for Morgan, this is like an ideal situation for invisibility.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, so difficulty 2. We've had a bunch of floating threat, so I will pass 1 setback onto that.
Okay.
And I will add 1 setback for, we've been joking about bus routes, but like everything's a manor house in this place aside from the city. So if you're not trying to get into the city itself, it's like what's going to get me to the closest field that I can walk through to get to another field that will bring me to the field I actually want to walk through to get to.
Totally, yep. All right, we'll see how this goes, and then I'll have a plan if it goes sideways. All right. That's 2 successes, 1 threat.
Okay, great.
Yeah, but though my general thought would be, hiding, going from field to field, and then if Eli happens to be on the way home, once Toby gets within a certain distance of her, she would have connection back with him and then be able to directly communicate or know what he's looking at. So she'd be able to meet up with him possibly.
Great. Yeah. So we'll say this is a bit of a like a ring wraith situation where it's just like hop up, full cloak,
Yep.
and you kind of take off probably away from the pack into the woods using Toby to help navigate across.
I'm just imagining Eli like, "What's that, Toby? Morgan's in the woods."
Turns into a bad kids show.
Well, just for visual though, it's like when Toby isn't connected to Morgan, he has avian instincts. So he can also operate with voice commands, which I'm sure would be set up for Eli because they've been together long enough. But when she's operating him directly, she controls everything about him. So it would be like bird time, then like sit up really straight, bird at attention, go back to bird mode. So you'd be able to tell when
What's
she's
that?
connected
I'm
to
in the
it.
woods.
Go back to bird mode.
All right, I like that. And then I think safe to say that you're able to kind of take back roads and things using Toby in the air to plot a path. Also, like given the nature of the very like prim and proper nature of the society, it would be very odd for someone to cut across a field. So
True.
it actually makes disappearing into stuff easy because like no one would. It's most improper. No one would even think to do it.
Perfect.
Okay, so you managed to do that, which does mean that you're able to make it back. So Eli and Morgan, you actually have a pretty safe ride back to talk if you want. Attikus and Valentyne, obviously yours is a little more fraught. Is there anything you'd want to say on the way back, or do you want to kind of wait till you can all properly group
It would
up?
all have to be double speak.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Valentyne
Yeah.
doesn't have anything in particular to say to Attikus, but he would be calling ahead to warn the people on the ship and the general household security to like triple the security routes around the property, to let people on the ship know what's happened. Like basically relay what's happened, be like, shit is going down. We don't know who's involved. We need to keep the Lord like all in character, but very much like step up the fucking game on the property. And we're not fielding questions currently. Just fucking step up security on the property and we'll get there when we get there.
In Atticus's study of the Van Houten line in history, would any Van Houtens have died during the
Celestial Seasons.
celestial seasons? I don't expect him to know what happened with other houses in the past, but has there been a death in the Van Houten line as a result of competing in the celestial seasons?
Yeah, I think like a long time ago, there was like a hunting death where it's just like similar to the Baratheon thing. It was like gored by.
And that's like the official record is, gored by a wild beast during the hunting event. Okay.
Yeah, it was like drunk, hunting, got gored.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And that's not to say, I think you probably would have got from Hugh Smiggleton that there have been deaths in the celestial season, but it's usually been like accidents or falling off a horse.
Accidents.
Or
Sure.
like, yeah.
But it's not like a Hunger Games scenario where they're like, every year, 4 out of 5 competitors die in the
100%.
celestial
A
season.
lord
yeah.
accidentally got like decapitated.
Yeah,
No,
it's so weird. Who hung that sword over his chair?
Yeah,
Like it's
It
been
was so sad how he fell onto that other man's gun.
yeah. Or like there was probably like a literal duel that happened once where like someone died or like
Okay.
two competitors like went at it and died. But yeah, in terms of the cloak and dagger style stuff,
Sabotage.
This is not, and I mean he would very happily tell you this. Like this is relatively unheard of.
Okay.
Since
Relatively
the
unheard of.
coup attempt like years and years, like a couple generations ago, the Voidstain rebellion.
Right.
All right. So with that, and sorry, Morgan and Eli just riding in silence.
Yeah, Eli's. They can't, Eli's aware it's like they can't really learn anything and talk freely until they're back on their ship. So
Yeah. And Morgan would not
let's
feel
get there.
comfortable. She is wearing just clothes and nothing
Yeah.
else. She would just hop on the back of that horse and kind of burrow into Eli's back and then get back home. That's it.
Great. So you, in a sort of tense silence, all of you travel back to Van Houten Manor. In again, just like uncomfortably bright, like spring evening. Like the sun is going down, beautiful pinks and purples across the sky. The air is fresh. And you arrive back to discover that the Royal Guard have actually beat you here. You can see a drop ship, and you notice a large kind of shimmering field around the Marnie's Song. It would seem that in addition to a curfew, they've impounded your ship.
Shimmering field, we would know that to mean that we can't board it even?
Yep.
Great. All right, well, flexing, I guess, as the Lord of just like pointing, to the Marnie Song and said,
Who ordered this?
And the guard just looks at you and says, "The king." You'll have to excuse our manners here, sir, but a long-lost heir to a troubled family arrives with a bunch of money, a rogue trader, and a ship, and then suddenly people start dying. You'll forgive us if we think that is somewhat suspicious.
I see.
You can take it up with the Space Marine Pollard if you so desire.
Right. Well, if people suspect that Lord Van Houten runs from danger, I'm looking forward to surprising and delighting everyone.
And like the guard smirks. He's really into this. And he just says, well, I think we all look forward to being surprised.
Does this guard have a nameplate or something that identifies them personally?
I mean, I was going to say no, but realistically in this fucking planet, he probably has like, a script, curling script nameplate. Yes, his name is Enos Tantornos.
Right. Valentyne doesn't have any particular need for that in terms of this conversation, but as a servant, this guy was kind of sassy with the boss. So
I should point out, not a servant, Royal Guard.
No, but I mean, as a servant, as Valentyne, this Royal Guard was, let's just say, not tremendously polite with Lord Van Houten on an ongoing basis. This is just one of those things where you track that name, and if you can make a problem for someone in future, you make a subtle problem for someone in future. So he's in his role. He's so deep in there.
if Attikus feels like he's made a charming little inroad with Enos here, I think he'd just try one more little thing of like, and just glance down,
Enos, is it?
We aren't at liberty to say.
It just gestures to his
Yes, we need to
nameplate.
refer to each other as things, but we don't speak of such things. You may refer to me as Royal Guardsman.
Royal Guardsman, then.
Yes.
I understand if my words have not swayed you to release the Marnie's Song. However, there are some personal effects I've kept on board. Are we permitted to board the ship in a way that satisfies your requirement for it to not take off?
And he just kind of like shakes his head sadly and turns and just like taps the energy field. And you can tell there's like emitters that have been kind of like dug into the ground around it. He says, respectfully, sir, we set these up. We can't take them down. You would need to speak to the king.
Very well. It may come to that.
I look forward to being surprised. And he smiles again.
Note that if you want, mister. Like, that's another strike. But like Attikus is, it's like, okay, worth a quick little shot of like, hey, let us hang out on our ship. We promise not to leave. Not going to work. Okay. He's going home. Yeah.
And so with that, all of you make your way sadly inside your highly bugged manor in order to try and discuss a high-profile murder, a possible conspiracy, and all manner of other comings and goings under the watchful ears of the society.
This episode of the Valentyne Heresy features the voices of players Ryan LaPlante, Tyler Hewitt, Laura Hamstra, and Del Borovic. alongside Game Master Tom McGee. This episode was edited and mixed by Laura Hamstra, and the Valentyne Heresy's artwork was created by Del Borovic at delborovic.com. That's DELBOROVIC. Our theme song is The Hordes by Megan McDuffie, and our ad breaks use the tracks No Control and Chiefs by Jazzar, JAHZZAR. All of their music is available at freemusicarchive.org. For all things Dum Dums and Dice, including merchandise and how to join our Patreon, you can visit dumdumdice.com or find us on social media at dumdumdice. That's DUMBDICE. Ave Imperator, and death to all the heretics.
Dum Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time: Christopher Little, Sue One, George Dolby, Richard Cranium, Gavin and Abby McDonald, Logan, Fire Unfriendly, Grandma Likes D&D, Alan, Stabby Stranger, Glitch Trick, Flynn1138, Alarain Okapi, Schrodinger's Pepper, Guy Edwards, Madre de Gatos, Lady Maiden, Nithrian, Garbo Ape, Locke, Sam Schaefer, Waffle Marine, Dagger Rain, Rob L, Dia De Los Hoodless, Dio Vassis, Loki Burrito, Squishy Werewolf, Remy, Funky Head, Nomad, the Wise Paladin of the Badlands, Accent Therapeutic Services in Florence, Kentucky, Lael, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumdumdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.